Hey, everybody, welcome back. As always, this is Erik Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, bringing you the best of LA, where I get to share cool businesses and service and business owners that are here in the Los Angeles area with you. And today, I'm going to introduce you to my cool friend, Shmuel Siegel of Westmac Commercial. So he's kind of a brother from another mother in my world. I work on the residential side. Shmuel will work on the commercial side. Shmuel, great to see you.
Amazing to be here. Thank you so much.
So for those that don't know, when you buy a property, you can buy a house or you can buy an investment-based property. And that could be commercial. Now, commercial for a lot of folks might be an apartment building, but it could also be office or retail or manufacturing or light industrial. It could be leasing. It could be purchasing. It could be selling. There's a lot of avenues to go. Shmuel, is there anything that I've missed or that you want to kind of segue into that?
Definitely will segue into it. Investment real estate or commercial real estate is certainly different from residential, just in terms of it's more business oriented. So if you're not going to have a primary residence in this place, and by the way, even then you can have a primary residence in a fourplex, so you can take one unit and still, but if you have a business use for this property, it would probably be closer to a commercial deal. Whether it's investment, whether it's your use, whether you're using it for office, industrial, and everything that you said. I think that would be the biggest differentiator between the two.
And who are the typical people that like to talk to you or that you are talking to?
I talk to just about anybody, and I've always enjoyed that. I will say I started in this business with my dad. My dad has been a broker for 25 years. Growing up, I would go with him to showings, and I would just love to see him helping people out. As a broker, I think your job is to be an advisor. Like you would have a legal advisor, that's your lawyer. You'd have a tax or a financial advisor, that would be your accountant. Your real estate advisor needs to be a broker. Whether it's residential real estate, and that should always be you, Erik. We all know that. You're the best residential broker out there. If it's commercial, I do my best. And my dad has always helped everybody out. And I kind of have the same thing. To me, I love helping small business owners, big business owners. It doesn't matter. Come to me and we are there to give you advice to help you out. And whether it's leasing, whether it's buying, whether it's selling, we love to give the advice to you guys and help you out and do the best we can to make everything the best for you.
Now think about that for those of you that are listening. Not only Shmuel's years and years of experience, but he's also got another 25 years stacked on top of that of his father. It's in his blood. Think about how much his brain is worth just by itself, that knowledge dump that he'd be able to give you in all things commercial. And the cool part about the differences in various forms of real estate is just like a doctor. You can go to a general practitioner, or you can go to a cardiologist, or you can go to a plastic surgeon. They all have their specialties. Now, they're all doctors, but their skill set in that individual piece. So what Shmuel knows, not only in the commercial space, but also here on the west side of Los Angeles, but even internationally or nationally for questions. So Shmuel, be kind enough, share a couple of examples of some of the people that you have maybe worked with recently, and without sharing anything proprietary, like what type of people you're talking to, what type of needs or questions do they have?
I'll give two extreme examples. I had one client who wanted to sell a property. They were looking to sell for a while, and they asked me for my advice. And normally what I do is I don't just say sell, sell, sell. What we do is we say prepare the property for disposition, and that is so crucial. And I sat with them and I said to them, "You're not ready to sell," and they were shocked. Like, "You're a broker. How am I not ready to sell?" I said, because you can need to work on your cash flow. You have so much capital expenditures outstanding. Anybody's going to come and buy. They're going to ask you for so much credit. Why would you give that away? Why would you give away money in this situation? There was so much that they can do to get more value out of their property. And I said, this is a checklist. This is what you should be doing. As a buyer rep as well, and I've studied a lot of due diligence, and I did a full course on acquisition, so I know exactly what buyers are looking for, so that I'm able to represent sellers better. I say to them, they will do this, they will do that. Well, I don't want to go into too much detail, but not ready to sell. And you should do 1, 2, 3, and when you are ready, I'm happy to be there for you. A lot of times they come and say, we have a vacant property. So I would come and tell them, let's get you a tenant beforehand. Let's get that cash flow up there. Let's get you a much better cap rate. You can get a better price. If you sign a new lease, why would you give that up? Why would you leave money on the table? That's one example. Another example was actually someone that you referred to me. he was just a phenomenal human being, and he was looking for an office, and it was difficult for him to find an office because of the system and everything that was going on. And I said, let's just get this done. And using our connections and speaking to brokers that I've built relationships with for a very long time, I brought him to the table and I said, I vouch for this guy and I've done deals with you before, and let's get this deal done. And we did. And it was just such a good feeling to help somebody out and get them in the office so they can work.
It's so interesting about that. I think about just the people that maybe we've had conversations with. So you had a chiropractor and wellness specialist. You had the office space off of Sunset, that unique kind of Mad Men 1950s space with cool views.
Yeah.
And then most recently, we had a conversation about someone looking for leasing parking lots for electric car chargers. Like, wild, the amount of variety that can pop.
Yeah. With commercial, you get everything and anything. And I love how, on the one hand, it's so variable, and at the same time, it's so systematic. So it basically, you go through the same notions. It's always the same thing. You look for cash flow, you look for opportunity, you look for location, you look for egress, ingress, depending on what it is. Luckily for me, I've had a lot of years experience with working with my father in restaurants. And that's a whole, I'll call it whole other animal in the retail space, because just within retail, you have so many segments. I know restaurants really well, and I've done a lot of deals in that space, but being able to apply that knowledge to other sectors in commercial real estate is just a lot of fun. So the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Had you thought ever of making a niche or niches? And I'll give an example. Even though I tell people that I represent people that are looking to buy, sell, or invest, and it's generally pretty vague, right? I have a niche as an example in divorce collaboration. So someone that would be looking to decouple and there's a familial home, they might want to know, should we keep it? Should we sell it? What do we do? We help with that process, and it's very specific, like it's a niche. Do you have any of that in your business or in your work?
My business does have that very much. If I specifically fit myself into a niche, I don't. I'm just too excited about everything, so it's difficult for me to pinpoint. I know a lot of people who, one guy who's very, very interesting, I think Moshe Gross, I'll say his name. He does film location brokerage. He only works with movies, and he knows exactly which offices are available, where those vacancies, and he connects film crews with vacant property so they can shoot the movie or TV show or commercial, whatever it may be. I mean, that's a niche that he created. There's another one. I mean, the single tenant net lease one, which is just triple net properties. Usually you have a single tenant and it's a triple net, which means that all of the expenses of the landlord are passed through to the tenant. So all you get is just mailbox money. You don't have to be in charge of the space. And if you have a credit tenant in an absolute net lease, they're also in charge of the building, which is a phenomenal space to be in. So there's just so much variety. It's too much fun. I enjoy too much of real estate to to not do it all.
It's one of the cool things that I think attracts the people that do well in this business. Love the fact that every day can be a little bit different. They like that concept, even though they do, like you had said before, with checking cash flow and having a good plan, having the rhythm of a system, but the variety of what a day could look like is pretty cool.
You know, it's what you said reminded me of that we create transactions out of thin air. That is what we do. We start the day with nothing, and we end the day with so much. We put people together. Somebody calls me, and what starts with an idea ends up in a sale, ends up in a business, ends up in something so phenomenal. What starts in maybe a family getting divorced, in your case, ends up with maybe a home for everybody and somewhere for everyone to be in, which is such an important, wonderful thing.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on this. So our world in residential has been pretty affected by interest rates. So you've got more buyers that will have some fears around how expensive things have gotten. And it's not that the home is more expensive, which is interesting. It's their monthly payment is more expensive. So I have more conversations of people saying, I'm going to wait for interest rates or house payments or whatever to go down. What do you hear on the commercial side over the past 6 to 12 months?
You know, we always say commercial always trails residential. So whatever happens in your market, I got to be really aware, which is why I have to be in touch with you constantly, because you need to tell me the future. I always know. But I think the first answer is going to be an annoying answer, but a true one. And I think you'll agree with me. It's so individual. It's so individual. And it depends on, I always tell my clients, and again, to answer your question, of course, interest rates it affects us all. I'll give an example at the owner user market. Owner users traditionally have looked for a property where they can pay monthly payments on their mortgage, which would be less than what they would pay for leasing. In an environment that interest rates are so high, it doesn't make sense anymore for these owner users to buy. But the question is how you look at it. Like you said, is it a year-over-year underwriting or is it a month-over-month underwriting? If you can withstand even negative leverage, which means that you actually pay back out of your pocket into the property, if you can sustain that for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, refinance and get more value out of the house, I mean, you're a king. The question is if you could do it. If you can underwrite year over year and say, I can make this amount of money in this year, that year. Because like you said, when house prices are low and you refinance 2, 3 years later, you're going to get so much more out of your equity. You can squeeze so much more out of the value of the house because of the appreciation that's going to happen. Now we have a soft landing economy. Eventually things are going to go up. The question is, how long can you sustain? For people, and I would not want to give anybody bad financial advice. If you can't stand with the monthly payments, you can't make a purchase. If you can, and you're able to sustain and say, I can put aside 3 years of money so that I can make this purchase when it's cheap, refinance the loan when interest rates are better, I mean, that's a great opportunity to buy.
It's funny that you say that, and I think about that idea often, and particularly in a place like LA that has such rapid appreciation when the market is up, that the whole idea of delayed gratification, if you're just willing to wait a little bit, you might have a down year, but it always creates opportunity. And recognizing that and talking to somebody like you and knowing and having that hand to hold to say, what do I do? How do I do it? How do I know for sure? And you've seen cycles and you've experienced them and you've got this breadth of data that you can give them. Yeah, no brainer.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I love everything you just said.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that covers a little bit of like trends and where you think we're going. So not to put you on the spot with this, but
I love it.
In my world, there's 40,000 real estate professionals in Los Angeles. And there's going to be less because as the market gets hard, people get out of the business. I'm sure there's other commercial brokers. And so why would someone say, oh yeah, I absolutely need to call Shmuel? So for the folks that are listening, what's the reason that they would want to call you beyond all your background and experience?
I get that question a lot, actually. I mean, I don't think that surprises you. I have 2 answers for that. I think the first answer, that's the basic one. Sometimes you gel with people and sometimes you don't. There are people that I'll be able to work amazingly with, that will have the greatest time. I love having a good time. I love smiling. I don't take myself too seriously. I've always been more on the humble side. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. And I've always been like that. For somebody who wants someone to think that he's God, that's not me. I will say that off the bat. And sometimes you gel with people and sometimes you don't. So give it a try. And I always say to my clients, give it a shot. Let's see how our conversation goes. You like it? Let's continue. If you don't, no worries. I have the blue ocean strategy, right? There's enough for everybody to go around. There's no worries. That's the first one. The second one is I do work hard. My way of thinking and my way of doing things is just get things done fast. So that leaves me more time in the day to get more done. I don't like people who just wait. If somebody sends me an email, I respond the same day, minute, if I can. If I can, I'll do it as soon as possible. I know a lot of people who say, if I respond too soon, they'll think I'm not busy and they think I'm not. No. I don't play games. I don't like the games. I'm very straight shooter. I do what I need to do. I respond quickly. I think that's a good thing. Again, it all goes down to, do you gel or do you not? So give it a try. See what happens. Happy to give advice always.
That's awesome. I know in other markets, people will talk about things like cap rate. And for those of you that are listening, it's basically the income that a property makes, how you judge the income.
On a full cash deal, on a full cash, yeah.
Yep. So people will look at other markets outside of Southern California as an example, and they might see areas where they can make more cash. But they may not know an apples to apples comparison of why oftentimes a place like Southern California can crush those markets long term. Can you touch on that and describe that? So someone says, well, why would I buy in California? It's so expensive and I don't make any cash.
I will absolutely touch on that. And funny enough, Erik, you touched on that. And I'm going to say exactly what you said. California offers amazing appreciation, and that's what it is. If you go out, we'll call it yield, because yield is basically the income coming in. So we won't use the cap rate example, just we'll say yield.
Sure.
If you go and purchase a property in, I'm going to pick on Massachusetts, or Massachusetts actually, interesting. Let's call it Michigan. Okay, if you go and purchase a property in Michigan, you might get a 6% return on investment, 6% yield, or a 6% cap rate, but the value is going to change by how much? Close to 0%, if at all. House values, I don't think have changed in the past 10 years in Michigan. If you buy in California, even though your cash flow is going to be less, your capital event, which means the sale or the value, is going to go up substantially. In 2, 3, 4 years, look what happened in Culver City. Look what's happening in West Adams right now. Look what happened in Santa Monica. Look what happened in Hollywood. The values went up tremendously, and that is the long-term game. And if you're able to just sit on a property and say, wow, I'm able to get so much more in rent or so much more on a sale price because I waited and I realized that appreciation. So if you have time to wait, buy in California. If you need cash now, sure, go outside and get that good yield, which, by the way, on a downturn, you never know. So
absolutely. Well, obviously, everyone that's listening, you can tell Shmuel is a wealth of knowledge. And so if you ever have a conversation or a question or a concern, want to learn a little bit about commercial real estate here in California and beyond, I'm going to pop all of his contact information here so you can see it. I invite you to fire away, have that conversation. It's fun. There's no pressure. I think that you'll really enjoy it. Shmuel, any parting words?
Parting words is call me up and let's strategize. I love thinking outside the box. I love being creative. I love not saying if, I like saying how. If to buy something that's interesting, but let's figure out how to get it done. That's my motto.
I love it. That's awesome. Everybody, as always, this is Erik Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, bringing you another cool business friend of mine and the best of Los Angeles. Tune in for the next time when we share another business that you'll want to hear about. Until then, this is Erik Brown, signing off.